Good afternoon. My name is Lorraine Dixon, and I work with the Kenya Organization for Environmental Education, based in Nairobi, with operations across Kenya. And we manage the Green Key program in Kenya, which is a program that promotes sustainability, both with regards to environment as well as social issues in the tourism industry. We have just recently taken over management of this program towards the end of last year. And in the wake of the COVID-19 crisis, we felt it was important for us to reach out to industry stakeholders to discuss important issues to keep sustainability alive, because it is a strategy for long-term survival of not only the industry, but of us as humanity. And so we are running a series of free webinars, which are touching on key issues that tourism businesses can take into account as they are looking to reopen or restart or re-strategize, because we are no longer living in a normal world. And so that is what we are here to do today. Today's focus is on energy and water efficiency. And I think I speak for many people when I say that energy bills are one of the biggest headaches that most people have, particularly those running any kind of business. And so we have Jones Musango with us today. He's a senior engineer from Energy Intelligence Africa, and he has some fantastic insights for us with regards to energy and water efficiency in the tourism industry. Just a few housekeeping rules. Kindly leave your mics on mute until we get to the Q&A session. And if you have anything burning, please do type it into the chat. I'll be keeping an eye on it so that we can address those issues as they come up. Also, please feel free to introduce yourself. Just tell us where you're joining us from, and thank you very much. Over to you, Jones.
Hi, everyone. I am Jones Musango. As I was introduced by Lorraine, I'm the Senior Energy Engineer at Energy Intelligence Africa, and I'll be the presenter for this second presentation on energy and water efficiency in the tourism industry. So I hope we'll engage more when the presentation kicks. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Yes. Yeah, I'm Agnes Masudi. I'm a maintenance manager of Grand Royal Swiss Hotel, Kisumu.
I'm Tom Konje, the executive housekeeper at Grand Royal Swiss Hotel, Kisumu.
Hi, Stephen Wambua, maintenance manager, Pride in Paradise Shanzu, Mombasa.
Hi guys, I'm Isaac Odhiambo. I'm a student at JKUAT first year. Taking operations research. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm just thinking maybe in the interest of time, we could, for the rest of us, we can type our introductions in the chat so that we can track them as we go on. I hope that's okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Jones, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. Okay. But I don't have I can't move the slides. I'm trying to move the slides. Maybe you can help me with
Sorry.
that.
Yes, no
Yes,
problem.
yes.
Yeah.
Slides. Okay. Maybe I'll be mentioning the next slide once I finish speaking so that maybe if it doesn't move, you can help me from your hand.
Yes, no problem.
Okay. I'll give you a brief information about Energy Intelligence Africa so that maybe you have an idea of where I'm coming from. Energy Intelligence Africa is an engineering company that is composed of qualified and experienced engineering experts. Part of the services that we offer include the energy efficiency and energy audits. We also do water and wastewater audit. We do electrical safety audit. We do environmental impact assessment. We do renewable energy solutions. And our vision is to be a world-leading provider of sustainable engineering solutions. And our mission is to consistently deliver outstanding value to all our stakeholders, excellent works, products, and services. I know this presentation is going to people in the tourism industry. Just to give you a feel of our interaction and the services that we've offered to people in that kind of industry, I have some portfolio, just some of the companies where we've offered the energy audit, include the Imperial Express Hotel, the Monarch Hotel, Heidi Styles, and the Imperial Hotel. So I believe we have an idea of the industry and what is required, especially at this time when you guys are doing a restart, on the measures which you can take so that you can reduce your cost on energy and water so that you can have a smooth restart during this period when you are trying to come back from the COVID-19. So I'll want to move to slide number 3. Why would you need to do an energy or to have an energy and water efficiency in your facility? One of the reasons why facilities are required of companies in this tourism industry would want to be water efficient or energy efficient is they want to comply with some existing regulations such as the energy management regulation, which requires facilities which consume more than 180 kilowatt hours per annum to carry out an energy audit once every 3 years. But why does the government want you to do that? Because in its development goals, it wants them to realign with the sustainable development goals. And for you people in the tourism industry, you should view it as a way of cost reduction, because I know some of the costs which are involve labor, raw materials, which may include food, stuff, and things like that, energy and water costs. But you realize that among these costs which I just mentioned, energy and water costs are the ones which you can easily reduce while maintaining the same production or the same performance of your facility. So that makes sense because you want to reduce your cost and be able to carry out your operation as normal. Again, being energy and water efficient help us fight the climate change, which is a noble thing to do. Going to slide number 3. I want to move to slide number 3, please. Some of the measures which we always come up with are short-term saving measures, which I believe are the ones which you'll be interested with during this time of restart. And these are measures which do not have a huge capital investment, such as switching off things like lighting and equipment, or just trying to arrest some leak in water leakages, which is a low cost investment, and then you get high savings. There are mid-term savings whereby they take about 1 to 5 years, and these ones require sophisticated approach and technology, which you might be considering maybe in the shorter term after you open. Then you have a high cost investment technologies, which take more than 5 years, but those you consider later. Of course, they have a cost benefit, and they also help us fight the climatic change and help us to run our businesses sustainably. Next slide. Some of the reason why there is a lot of low intake in energy and water efficiency measures in the hotel industry would be lack of information. But I wouldn't say it's lack of information per se, but it would be lack of awareness as well, because some people are so used to working in a particular way. They have developed a culture of doing things in a particular way, which would be not necessarily lack of information. They have the information, but then they don't want to take action because it has worked that way. So this has hindered most of facilities from taking initiative, which would rather, for instance, like switching off light, which everyone knows if you switch off light, you're going to save on energy. But someone will not switch off lights because they feel like it's more comfortable to be on a well-lit place, whereas even with the natural light, it's sufficient for them to work like that. So some of the barriers which have led to low intake of energy and water efficiency in facilities is lack of information or lack of awareness about the things which people are carrying, and which leads to a culture of working in an inefficient ways. Next slide. So, what should motivate you to take energy saving measures during this time of COVID-19 when you are doing a restart? One is, if you take these measures, you'll be operating at a reduced cost as compared to how you were operating initially when you didn't take these measures. And another reason why you should do that is some customers would feel comfortable to know that your operations are environmental friendly. They are taking into account water efficiency measures. They are taking into account energy efficiency measures. And thus, this should be a motivation to you trying to adopt these energy and water saving measures. This also leads to an improvement of your image out there, because if an hotel is operating at a more efficient way as compared to others, then that is it has a good image as compared to the other hotels. And the last but not the least, you'll reduce your environmental impact by adopting these energy efficient measures and water efficient measures. Next slide. So, where do we start? The first step for you is to carry out an energy audit. Why am I saying you should carry out an energy audit? Because part of what, as I said, part of the barriers which is making most of the facilities not to adopt these measures is because one, they don't have the information. Two, or they are not aware that they are operating at inefficiently. So by carrying out an energy audit, you will be able to ascertain where you are and where you want to be, so that maybe you can be able to adopt these measures. Move to the next slide. And this is the chart just showing the logos, showing where you can be. After you carry an energy audit, you'll be able to know where am I in terms of energy efficiency performance, and know if I take this particular measure, where will I be, and where can I be if I'm operating energy efficiently in terms of water and energy consumption. Next slide. So I will want to divide the energy and the water efficiency differently. So from now, I'll be handling the energy efficiency measures, which are likely to be found in the hotel industry. Of course, there are so many energy efficient measures which can be identified when you go to a hotel, because some of these measures are site specific. But in this presentation, I'll be trying to handle the common energy efficient measures which are found in the hotel, and trying to show you the kind of cost savings which you can achieve, and maybe how you are going to impact on the environment by implementing these particular saving measures. Go to the next slide. So some of the areas where there are some potential of the potential areas of energy savings in a hotel include lighting, which is always in the guest room, the lounge, kitchen, almost every area of the industry. Then we also have heating and domestic hot water, which is mainly in the kitchen and in the guest rooms. And then we have ventilation and air conditioning. We have in the kitchen, the machines, and then leisure and fitness areas. So I'll be handling this area one by one so that I can point out. Of course, there are other systems or other areas where there are potential energy savings, but this would be specific to particular facility. And this can come out clearly when you go to the facility, maybe when carrying out an energy audit. Go to the next slide. So I'll talk about lighting. Next slide. Yeah, lighting, it's known that LED lighting is the current technology of lighting that is most efficient, as compared to previously it was the compact fluorescent CFL, which is commonly known as the energy saver lamp. But currently LED, you can save up to about 75% of the energy that is consumed by other conventional lighting. Here, I try to point out on an example whereby if you have an incandescent lamp that is 50 watts and you replace that with a 7-watt LED lamp, just that one lamp would give an energy saving of 227 Kenya shillings a month. And suppose you're in a facility that has 100 lamps like that, you would be saving around 22,704 Kenya shillings per month. I'm sure most of the hotel would have more than that 100 number of lamps. So basically, you see, lighting is what would be considered as a low-hanging fruit, or an opportunity whereby it presents itself as a way where you just want to start there. Because once you implement these measures, you'll be realized a payback of even less than 6 months. Again, if you come up with a strategy whereby you don't replace your lighting in all the facility, and you go maybe section by section, you might even realize a payback that is shorter than these 6 months. And the idea is you leave the incandescent lights and the CFL in areas where there is low utilization, such as waits less than 30 minutes, which would be like in a switch room, or in a store whereby there is not so much lighting being used there. Next slide. So here I have a case study of a hotel, and for the purpose of the client, it's a hotel somewhere. They were doing a replacement in a parking area. Here they were replacing 24 feet lamps with the LED lamps of equivalent. The good thing with LED is most of the lamps, they have tried to mimic the structure of each and every lamp, such that if you have an incandescent lamp, they have an equivalent of that. So you don't have to change the whole fixture, rather than you are going just to buy the lamp itself. In this facility, the cost of the existing 56 watt LED lamps was consuming 229,710 Kenya shillings per month. That is working with the rate of 19 shillings per kilowatt hour unit. When they replaced it with the 18 watts LED lamp, the cost of lighting these lamps was 74,100 per month, working the same 19 Kenya shillings. You find that the replacement itself gave an energy saving of around 8,190 kilowatt hours. That's the power savings, and the cost saving a month was 155,610 per month. So I believe with this scenario of something like LED, which I earlier mentioned is a low hanging fruit, it's a good opportunity in which the people in the hotel industry can venture into when they are restarting after the COVID-19 closure, so that maybe they can realize a lot of energy savings from this. Go to the next slide. Then there is the aspect of having an efficient use of lighting. And one way you can use the existing lighting efficiently is to ensure that in your fixtures of light, you have fixtures that are brighter rather than the dark, because dark fixtures will absorb the light. You want fixtures which would reflect the light. And in this picture, you can see there is this dark side lamp, and there is this bright side lamp. If you have a fixture like this, you'll probably need more lights in that particular room as compared to when you have a fixture like this. So the facilities should be considering when they are trying to purchase the lamps, to ensure that they are more reflective rather than dark, which would just absorb the amount of light. Next slide, please. Then also the wall that are surrounding the rooms. You want to make the walls more brighter, because white surfaces would reflect up to about 70% of the incident light that is being supplied there. Whereas when you have a darker wall surface, then it's going to absorb the light, and the room will become darker. Then you will require more lighting fixtures in that particular room. So, especially when you are doing maybe painting, or you are doing repainting, you should always have in mind that if you repaint with a more reflective color, then you are going to need less lighting in that particular room. Next slide. Then you can see these two rooms over here. You see the room on my left hand side, it's more darker, and when you're in a darker room, you'll feel like it's not well lit. So probably when you are in this particular kind of room, you'll need more light as compared when you're in a room like this one. So it's always good to ensure that the rooms, they are just they have the good surfaces surrounding them, so that you can optimize the amount of light that you are using in that particular room. Next slide, please. Then there's also the aspect of making use of daylighting. There are areas where you find that you don't have to. You can take advantage of the natural light rather than using the artificial light. In some areas, you find that a facility puts on a blind, then switches on the lights during the day, when they can just open the blinds or open the curtains and then make good use of that natural light. But one challenge with this using natural lighting is you want to ensure that whenever you are using the natural lighting, you don't get the area does not become there is no overheating, because this will lead to you using an AC. Whereas while you are saving on lighting, then you are incurring an expense on air conditioning. So you have to ensure that the place is well ventilated. Then you can take advantage of natural lighting in areas where it's possible. Next slide. Yeah, I will talk about heating and domestic hot water. You know, the domestic hot water is very in high demand in hotels, and it's used in areas such as the rooms and in the kitchen, among other areas. So you take me to the next slide, please. Most of the facilities use maybe boilers to generate some steam. Then you pass it to a calorifier where you can produce some hot water. Or others may decide to use the instant showers, which I don't think it's a right way to go about it. So in a boiler system, you realize there is something called the combustion efficiency of the boiler. You want to ensure that the combustion parameters of your boiler are operating optimally, because if the combustion is off, then you are using too much fuel to generate steam. This can be correct during the energy audit. You normally take measurements, and then we can advise on how you can correct this, and you find that you can get up to about 10% improvement in combustion efficiency. This means that in the fuel that you use, the cost that you use to purchase fuel for maybe boiler will be reduced significantly if you do some boiler tuning. Again, you also want your steam lines to be insulated so that there's no heat losses along the steam line. Other facilities have the alternative of cost reduction measures, such as using solar water heaters in the facility, which is encouraged because that gives a cleaner source and a cheaper source of water. Next slide. Then, another way of ensuring that your demand for energy for heating is low is to ensuring that you maintain the appropriate temperature of waters, and this can be set based on the use of that particular water. If you are using water for showering or for the bathroom water, you don't need the water to be at 100 degrees. You can just maintain it at 60 degrees, a temperature where you can avoid the Legionella bacteria. And that temperature, you'll supply water to your guests comfortably, and they'll be able to take the hot shower. So ensuring that the temperatures are maintained at an optimal level will reduce the amount of energy that is required to heat that particular water and take it to the particular use point. Next slide. I'll want to talk about air conditioning and ventilation. I know it is in the hotel industry or the hospitality industry, providing fresh air at a comfortable temperature is very critical to guests. And this air should be supplied at regular volume of fresh air, which is uncontaminated. And areas where this air is supplied include kitchen, which is to remove odor and smoke. Other areas is the sitting area or maybe the rooms. And the AC systems present a good opportunity whereby you can get savings from maintaining this particular system such that they are operating at an optimum condition. Next slide. One way in which you can get some saving from the AC or air conditioning system is by ensuring that areas which are just exposed to environment, they use natural ventilation. Just as I said about the lighting, whereby you find people putting on blinds and switching on the lights, it's also not very uncommon that you'll find areas which have open windows to the outside. People would have closed those doors and windows, and then they will switch on the AC. So in areas where it is possible to use natural ventilation comfortably, then it's highly advised that you use this natural ventilation. Next slide. Then there is also maintenance of the AC system component. You find that system components such as the condenser, when they get dirty, or the evaporator fans, when they get dirty, the AC cannot reject it to the environment. Then you find your AC will be running for longer hours than expected. So ensuring that the systems are maintained, and the maintenance of this system, just like cleaning, is not very expensive. It's quite cheap. Just keeping them maintained, then they can operate optimally, and then you don't have to go on paying huge bills because of for running this particular system. Next slide. I'll talk about savings which are associated with the kitchen. You know, kitchen is one of the areas where energy is highly consumed in the hotel industry. And one way in which to ensure that you get some energy savings in the kitchen is by ensuring that the staff who are working at the kitchen, they have adopted the switch off policy when the equipment in the kitchen are not being used. You realize that most of the modern catering equipment, they are energy efficient. But then the user, the way in which this equipment can be able to save energy remains on how the user interacts with that particular equipment. So it's also good to educate the staff that are in the kitchen that if particularly you are cooking something and then you have like 30 minutes gap before you cook again, you don't have to leave the equipment on, then you continue cooking. You can switch it off because most of the modern equipment, they will reach the temperature quickly, and then you can save on time in which the energy is being consumed by that particular equipment. Next slide. Then when you are purchasing equipment, always have an idea of the running cost of that particular equipment. As I said, the modern equipment, they are more energy efficient. And in case you have, because this equipment always have a huge capital investment. In case you have a new equipment and an older equipment, it's always advised, always make use of the more efficient equipment. And in case there is a lot of bulk of work, then you can switch on to using the second conventional equipment. So it's always good to have in mind that even when you are purchasing new equipment, always go for the Energy Star rated equipment because this will be more efficient. It will utilize your energy use appropriately in the facility. Next slide. Then in the kitchen, there is also the refrigeration that is required in the kitchen in the hotel, and this comes in the form of cold rooms, freezers, and fridges. Ensuring that these systems are well maintained is vital to ensure that there is a optimum operation of these equipment. You realize that some of the doors of things like the cold rooms, the door seals of things like freezers and refrigerators, they are not well maintained, and there's leakage of the freezers or the cold room are having heat gains into the cold room, which makes the compressor of the system, that is the freezing system, to run for longer hours than expected. Also, ensuring that the condensers and the evaporators are clean will ensure that this particular system would operate optimally. Again, be vigilant of what you are storing in these particular areas, because you might be putting something in a cold room or in a freezer which could operate well at a higher temperatures. For instance, I've provided here the product the temperature that is required for a particular product, and then the suitable temperature, the suitable product that could be stored there. You would find that someone stores maybe ice cream in a colder, maybe in a freezer, whereas the ice cream would operate in a fridge when the said temperature is around 15 to 18 degrees. Then this would mean that the fridge will be running for hours than expected, so that it can freeze this particular ice cream or some frozen foods which could operate at a higher temperature. So we should be able to separate these particular foods into the appropriate temperatures so that they can be stored in the different equipment which are required for the particular purpose. Next slide, please. I'll want to touch on energy savings, which can be realized at the leisure and fitness. And one of them is the swimming pool. You should always have a swimming pool cover. About this is part of the high cost investment measures. You have a swimming pool cover. This will reduce the amount of evaporation, and of course there are costs that are associated with pumping water in the facility. So if you think it in that sense, you're reducing your costs that are coming from evaporation. And you can also have solar heated pools, because, you know, as I said, solar water heater is an alternative that provides a cheaper and a cleaner way of source of energy as compared to if you are going to use electricity, or you are going to use something like a boiler to supply steam to this particular system. Next slide. Again, it's also important that you create awareness among the guests, or just in the fitness area, so that the equipment are kept off, or you have the attendant being aware, should be informed that you should ensure that all the equipment are kept off after use, because there is what we call the phantom loads, which is the energy that is consumed by a machine when it's just idling. So if you leave this equipment off, they are still consuming some power, but they are not getting used. So always be on learn to train the attendants at these fitness areas or the guests switch off the equipment when they are not using them. Next slide. And in this slide, as I said, there is a lot of energy measures which are there, and I couldn't cover them even in detail. I just brushed through quickly. I presented some summary of some of facilities which I've carried out. No mention of which facility, but this is a real data from a facility. So you can see here, these guys were trying to do some use of LED lighting in their facility. In this use of LED lighting, they were able to save, it was estimated that they could save 18,000 kilowatt hours. 18,000 kilowatt hours, about 18,000. And you see the payback period is around 0.81 years. The carbon savings will be 6,650. There is another client who he had a lot of cold rooms, and the doors were open to the environment. The doors, there was a lot of traffic happening in and out of those cold rooms. They didn't have a air curtain. The recommendation was to put an air curtain. Then you can see the energy saving is around 161,000 kilowatt hours, because there's a lot of gain of heat in those cold rooms. Of course, it's a huge investment. A cold room, an air curtain will go for around 250 to around 400,000. Then you can see the payback. It's less than a year. Then there is the combustion optimization. The boiler is another client who did a boiler, which was not well tuned. Maybe not tuned for some time. You can see this is 26,786 kilowatt hours. That is energy savings, but this one is using HFO, the fuel savings. So this is less than 6 months. So you realize some of these measures which are provided or which are recommended in an energy audit would be very vital into taking them into account when you are restarting, because you can see these are areas where you can make some good savings during this time when you are restarting your operations. Of course, there are other measures which are very important because they help us reduce the carbon emission and the aspect of sustainability or the energy efficiency, whereby you are required to reduce the carbon emission. You can see, like for solar water heating, substitute electric heaters, this person was saving around 11,102 kilowatt hours. For energy management and real-time monitoring, for you to be able to monitor what is happening and take the right response, then you can see this person is being able to save around 23,391 kilowatt hours, which gives a payback of 2.41. Even though these ones are long-term measures which are taking more than a year, not that they are not important. The strategy could be you start with the short-term measures which are going to pay back quickly. Then in the future, when the industry stabilizes, then you can consider putting on the long-term measures. Next slide, please. Yeah. So as I said in the previous slide, you could consider the low-cost energy efficiency measures. Maybe if you carried out an energy audit, it's a high time you go back to that report which you were provided. Then you can check out on the measures which are provided, in which the payback period was less than 6 months or less than a year. Then you can be considering those payback period, or even measures which are just low cost, like behavior change and things like that, so that you have some savings when you are restarting. In this case, when you carry out an when you implement this measure, it's estimated that you can save more than 20% of your cost saving, and the electricity saving would be about 39%. And then the demand, the maximum demand that you consume, would be reduced maybe by about 42%, and the cost about 30% generally. Next slide, please. So I will move now to water efficiency measures. We know water is a scarce resource, and in the future it is expected that the demand will exceed the supply by about 40% by 2030, and only 3%. Having in mind that only 3% of water is fresh water and 7% is saline water. So there is high demand that we utilize water appropriately, and water accounts to about 10% of utility bills in most establishments. So by using water appropriately, you are sure that you are reducing your cost of operation. Next slide. So what is the procedure in which you should use into water management? First thing, you should start by measuring your consumption. You want to have some tangible targets. You want to be aware what are you consuming currently, so that maybe you can see in the future how you are improving in terms of your water use. Because most of the people they will want to implement the measures, but then you don't know where you are and where you want to be. So installing meters and taking regular reading will aid this. And this would also include having some sub-meters at areas where you think water is being consumed so much. Maybe, for instance, like in the kitchen, water going to the room, water going to the bathrooms, and things like that, so that you can be able to track your daily use in the different areas. Next slide, please. Then the other thing which you can do is to carry out a water audit, so that you can show how the cost and where savings can be made. One thing that I normally say is the difference between energy and water is that water cost can be increasing in the facility. If you buy a municipal water at maybe 80 shillings, the moment you pump that water to supply to an overhead tank, the cost will not be 80 shillings anymore. Will be something like 95 because the water cost includes that cost of pumping. If you have a water that is being treated, maybe in a reverse osmosis plant, if it came from that overhead tank at 95 shillings, that water, when you're using it, will be at around 1 shilling. So it's also important to have this key cost in mind of water, so that when you're using water, you try to use it efficiently. Then you can compare the total cost and departmental consumption figures with the industry benchmark, determining the potential of saving. You can benchmark yourself with other industry, how much water they consume maybe per guest, how much water they consume per day, so that maybe you can be sure that you are using your water efficiently. Next slide, please. Then the other thing is to calculate water used per guest per night. This is done by dividing the total water that is consumed by the number of guests. And you realize that if you notice that there is so much water use or water use index, there is so much water use per, the water use per guest is increasing, you might want to take an action, because perhaps this could be coming from a particular leak, but not directly from the guest, and you want to use your water to serve your purpose, which is accommodating the guests that you have. So it's always good to have water used per guest, so that you can be able to point out when water is being used inefficiently. Then you can set some realistic goals of each department and the entire establishment. Setting goals is like saying that the maximum water use per guest should not go beyond this. And if it goes beyond this, what action can we take, or what should we do? Or should not go beyond this much per this department. If it's going this much, we should find out where is water being wasted, where is water not being utilized efficiently. Next slide, please. Then, as I said, most of these measures, they are mainly from behavior. Then you should communicate the management commitment to water reduction and the subsequent objective and goals to all employees. You realize you can be having a good water audit or a good report, but unless the staff are willing or are aware of what you are trying to do, then your goal for achieving water efficiency cannot be possible. So it's also good to pass or communicate this message to your employees. Communicate it, train them, and let them understand that you want to use water prudently and how to maintain equipment and optimum energy efficiency. Next slide, please. Then the other idea which I want to pass through, which could be passed on to by the facility, is to encourage the staff to put on their own suggestion for water reduction. You find that if a staff give a suggestion on how they can save on water, then apparently they will take this idea as their own, and they will want to implement it, as compared to when you pass the idea to them. And during the water audit, what we normally do is we go to the staff and ask them what they feel, or which areas they feel could be of great help in terms of water efficiency. And those suggestions are always the ones which are given a lot of priority, because they are the ones which will be given, the staff will hone them. Again, you also need to establish a monitoring and targeting system so that you can regularly report progress back to the staff and other stakeholders. Next slide, please. Then I'll discuss some few water reduction, water conservation measures, and one of them is leakages. You can see from the right-hand side picture, there's a leak here. You find that leakages, they consume a lot of water. And a leak like this one in this photo, you'll find that it's just maybe a union that will be required, which will not cost the facility so much. But a leakage like this would run for months, which is a cost that the facility will never recover, while the correction of this particular particular measure is just so cheap. So facilities should be looking for leakages and trying to make sure that their plumbing systems is well managed. You can see here there are also faucets which when you they continue to leak. So if you follow out how much water is getting lost from this particular faucet, it has a significant cost, because perhaps you have 15 of these particular faucets. So it's always good to ensure that you avoid leakages in the facility. Next slide, please. Then the use of the shower heads. There are the conventional shower heads which have more than 10 liters per minute, which the consumption is more than 10 liters per minute. So you should always change into more efficient shower heads, which have a lower flow rate, to ensure that the consumption from there it's not so much. And some of these measures, they can just be done from the facility by checking out. If you have using something like a bucket and a stopwatch, then you can measure the flow rate of the shower head and see whether the shower head that is existing, whether it's a low flow rate or it's a high flow rate. And have in mind that next time you are procuring things like shower heads, you have in mind that you need to procure shower heads with a lower flow rate rather than the ones with high flow rate, so that you can have gains in water savings. And a different aspect is having aerators in taps. These aerators, they can just be fitted on the tap, or having the entire faucets with a whole faucet with an aerator. The conventional taps, they have a flow rate of about 6 liters per minute, which would take you around 8 liters, maybe for a 2 minutes hand wash. But then if you have a faucet with an aerator, then you will find that the hand wash would last for around 4 liters per minute. You can imagine how much hand wash can be there in the industry. So you should be considering having the aerators and this low flow rate shower heads. Next slide, please. Then this is just a picture showing a push button shower, whereby you don't leave the shower running when you are maybe applying soap to your body. You just use when you want to wash yourself. And this is an infrared tap, whereby it senses your body when you want to wash the hand and cuts off when the hands are off. Next slide, please. Then you have things like toilets. You have toilets having the conventional flush tank, and you have the double flush tank. The double flush tank can hold an average of around 6 liters, and then you have the conventional tank, which holds about 10 liters. And that 10 liters is done in one flush. So having the double flush toilet tank is going to conserve you more water as having the conventional flush tank. One way in which you can just try to reduce the amount of the water that can be held in this tank is by having a displacement device, which is shown on this picture on my right hand side. And the displacement device is just something that you put on that tank, so that the volume of water that is being held in that particular flush tank, it's lower than the one that could be held if it didn't have that displacement device. So I believe this can be a low cost measure, which you might be considering in areas where you have the conventional flush tank. Next slide, please. Then in washing machines, in the laundry, then you can consider having a 5 kg machine rather than having the big washing machines, because the smaller washing machines can consume lower amount of water as compared to big machine, and then you can minimize the rinse cycle as much as possible without reducing the quantity. Also ensure that the washing machines are maintained, especially points where water gets into the machine, because there are always leakages around those areas where there's the water enters into the machine, so that you can avoid some water losses. Next slide, please. Then there is in the swimming pool, you always have the filter, the filters of the swimming pool, the sand filter and the activated carbon filter. You always want to ensure that you develop an optimum backwash schedule, because that water of backwash is always you find most of the facility they drain it, others they might use it. It's not useful water. So if a swimming pool could go for 2 days without people being there, you can just try and ensure that instead of doing the backwash on a daily basis, you can find an optimal way to ensure that the water is clean, and then you don't waste a lot of water in backwash. Then also you can use the water that is from backwash for doing gardening in the area, so that you don't just drain the water don't put the water to the drain. Next slide, please. Then if there is a possibility in which you can reuse gray water, that is water from baths and things like steam, if there is possibility, then you can use that water for things like gardening and for irrigation or something like that, so that you avoid putting that water to drain, and it can be put into another use. Next slide, please. Then there is also the aspect of water harvesting. You find that there are facilities which have a large roof, but during the rainy season, they just let that water flow down, and then they are still buying water from the facility. It's also, although this is a high cost measure, it's also a good thing to consider having a water harvesting technique, so that you can supplement that with the municipal water, so that you can significantly reduce your cost for water costs. Next slide, please. So you also need to provide training to the staff, because, as I said, behavior is also key and contributes to high percentage of areas where water or energy is wasted. You also need to conduct training and inform housekeeping on how they can reduce the water use. This may include providing them information that they just need to do like maybe one toilet flush when they are doing cleaning, or they should not leave the taps running when they are maybe cleaning the sink, because that will just end up into using water that is not necessary. They just need to use the tap when they are just cleaning and then close it. Next slide, please. Then from the above, we have seen that a key component of water management action plan is the communication with the education of staff. You always want to make sure that your staff is aware of what they are doing. Because as I said, some people, they are not, it's not that they don't know, it's just that they are not aware. Maybe they are using the water inefficient. They know it's inefficient, but they run it that way. It's a culture which they have developed. So you have to make them be aware that if I'm leaving a tap running, then I'm wasting water. This should also be seen as a high purpose together with other energy efficiency measures. Next slide, please. So we come to this point whereby I say the facility should first, or the owners of the facility should first be the role model in order to educate the guests. Because you might get to a point where you need to communicate to guests, maybe through something like a sticker telling them to switch off light or don't leave tap running. But then you have to become a role model before you get to that point. Again, it's also a good way to come up with ways in which you can encourage the guests to practice a good water use without making them feel uncomfortable, ensuring that they understand that these resources we have, they are scarce and they need to be utilized appropriately. Also, you can inform the guest on how to establish reduced water consumption in other areas. Next slide. So yes, yeah. Now here I did a similar thing as I did for the energy audit. I was trying to show these are some facilities which we've done some water audit, the water savings which can be achieved. But this particular facility didn't have a lot of water. In this facility, they were using nozzles. They were not using nozzles. They are just using bare pipes. You can see the amount of water savings. You can see calibration of meters to ensure that the installation of flow meters at important points, so that you can take action when there is a fault, or when you see the meters reading so much, you can realize there is a leakage, find the leakage, arrest it, creating awareness, because as I said, awareness is key. You can see how much water is being saved along this column, and then the cost saving. The maximum one is around 271,000 per annum. And then I wanted to, of great interest is this regular inspection and maintenance of water fixtures to stop leakages. As I said, leakages is it's a biggest source of water wastages. See how much water they are wasting, about 5,000. I think it's the largest, around 5,475 cubic meters. But these leakages could just be repaired by around 20,000 Kenya shillings, and the payback is even less than a month. So you don't want to have, you want to ensure that you're operating efficiently in terms of water use when you restart during this period of restart the tourism industry. So thank you so much. I think in case of any question, I'll be willing to respond to questions. Next slide. Questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes.
How do we, okay, just a minute. How do we carry out the energy audit?
Okay, the energy audit.
Yes.
The energy audit is carried out by consultant, but the consultant should be licensed by EPRA. Just like the Energy Intelligence Africa, my company is it's licensed by EPRA, and it has licensed energy auditors to carry out energy audits. So as per the requirement of the energy management regulation, as I said earlier, facilities which consume 180,000, which is around 15,000 kilowatt hours, or if you have a bill of around 300,000 per month, then you are required to carry out an energy audit once every 3 years. So when you get the client and you engage them, then once you get the consultant and you engage them, then we can be able to give you the insights of the energy audit.
Okay, and lastly, not lastly, like in my hotel where I'm now, we are having problems of water consumption, although you have explained, but it's not detailed. Because like, it's not detailed to me, because I don't know if there's further explanation on it, because it is highly, we're having problem on consumption. Like a day you can use almost 50,000 liters. Yes, per day. And the management is seeing that is on the higher side.
Yeah.
Yes. So.
Yes, as I said.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yes.
The question?
What I'm saying.
Yes.
our consumption is too high. A day we are consuming 50,000 per day, and that is yes. The Manabi is seeing that it is on the higher side.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. As I said earlier, whatever I was presenting in this particular presentation, because you see, it's a lot of detail. When you carry out the audit, it's always a detailed analysis. It shows you, it's always specific to that particular site, and we thoroughly go into the details of the different areas where maybe water is being consumed, where water is being wasted, how you can save those water. We do the calculation of the investment cost and how much you can the payback period that you'll get. Maybe if it's a return on investment, the internal rate of return, the net present value of that particular water saving measure that we have proposed. So basically, what I was providing here, it's just an insight of areas in which you can be considering to do. But then, if in case you want to consult us for more information, then I think I've provided the addresses over here. We can maybe engage later on that matter.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Could we also have some after this session so that we can implement some of the things you say?
Say again?
The notes. Could we have those notes so that also we teach?
Oh yeah. The slides, eh? Oh,
yes.
These slides, eh? Yes. These slides, I think they will be provided to all the participants. I think the host will be able to do that, Lorraine. Yeah, so don't worry, the slides will be provided to you by Lorraine.
Otherwise, we thank you very much, Mr. Msango. That was a good insight.
Okay.
Sorry, I think I'll force me to contact you because I have so many questions for you.
Yes.
Of which it might take most of your time on the Zoom.
Okay. Yeah. My contacts are here. Maybe you can take note of them.
You don't touch the solar system. I'm seeing the solar system on solar. I don't know, because we have for hot water. I think to me it will force me to contact you later.
Yes. Any more questions?
Any more questions?
We are through.
Hello.
Hello. Yes, I can hear you.
Anyone?
I'm through the question. I'll contact you. Yes, I'm through. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Jones, for insightful presentation. And I hope we've learned.
I can't hear you. I can't hear clearly. Raise your voice a bit.
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'm saying thank you so much for the insightful presentation. And I know all of us have learned a lot from this presentation. Then on the question of those asking about the presentation, we shall send it on your emails. All of you, we shall send you this presentation. And at the end of the presentation, you will have John's email and phone number, and you can you are free to contact him for more information on the same. Lorraine has left for another meeting.